We have recovered a significant amount of evidence that clearly indicates that this heinous crime was committed by Ashlee Buzzard, Melodee's mother, and the very person upon who she relied upon and trusted the most.
After 2 months of searching across 8 states, the body of 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard has been discovered in Utah. The little girl was found with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. It is a devastating case. Now her mother, Ashlee Buzzard, is pleading not guilty to first-degree murder. Investigators say Buzzard rented a car planning to take her daughter on a road trip from California to Nebraska, but Melodee only survived a few days with her mom. The mother and daughter were spotted in this surveillance footage near the Colorado-Utah border on October 9th. We all remember seeing this. Authorities believe the young girl was murdered shortly after that sighting, with Ashlee Buzzard returning to California alone the very next day. So here we are with Investigation Nation, and joining me now to discuss is Mark Geragos, criminal defense attorney and co-host of 2 podcasts, not one, Reasonable Doubt and 2 Angry Men. Mark, always good to see you. I mean, this is just an awful case. There's no way around it. And I've heard you talking about this case here on NewsNation in recent days, calling this a monstrous, repulsive act if true. And on Friday, Ashlee Buzzard waived her right to a speedy preliminary hearing, and the DA, not seeking the death penalty, will be seeking life without parole. So let me start with just your initial reaction on the legal aspect of this. Why do you think that is?
The waiver, I think, or saying that they're not going to seek the death penalty, I think somebody was very astute in the DA's office. They understand who their jury pool is. They understand that going for the death penalty might kind of backfire, if you will, in terms of the jurors that you might get and how they might react. Normally, and it's counterintuitive because normally death penalty cases, as you know, Laura, are kind of weed out those who aren't completely pro-prosecution. Mm-hmm. But in this case, and historically, when a woman is charged with killing her child, it's a different calculation. I mean, it's, as you said, I've labeled this, if the act is true, a monstrous act, and truly it is, because there is, you mentioned, or in the package, the idea that the person you trust the most, it's the mother and daughter, and yeah. Just something that most people can't wrap their heads around. And seeking the death penalty, I think, probably was a bridge too far in terms of asking the jury to convict and sentence her to life without parole.
Well, plus it's kind of soon to talk. I don't know if it is kind of soon to talk about it. It feels like it. I mean, she was just arrested. The judge in the case imposed a gag order on the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office, number 1. So that means that they can't share anything other than public record. And that's a temporary order until Ashlee Buzzard's next court date, January 7th. That'll be here before we know it. So what does that tell us as far as what kind of evidence exists in this case? It sounds like there's going to be some gruesome evidence here. And then
well, I think...
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's the case, but you showed in the package, I think, precisely why or what would set off a Superior Court judge in that county. I practiced in that county, and many years ago had cases, you remember, where we did have gag orders. The sheriff's press conference, he just went too far. You can't get up there and start doing what he was doing, and I think this was a bench slap, for lack of a better term, of the sheriff's office, which is part of the prosecution team. And so given that, yes, there probably is, I mean, undoubtedly gruesome evidence. I don't know if she's good for this, so to speak. We'll have to wait to see how it unfolds. Certainly something happened. She was in the care, the child was in the care and custody of her mother. I had thought originally that this had all the earmarks, and I publicly said it, of a custody dispute gone awry. And it'll be interesting once we find out more information. One of the things, as you know, in these cases, whatever it first appears to be the case generally is not the case in these kinds of sensationalized cases.
I mean, this story has been so crazy to cover. I mean, a murder weapon hasn't been recovered. Investigators still don't have a motive yet. But as you were just talking about what the possible motive could be, but everybody is asking why. And it's important to note for those joining us who may not know, Mark Geragos has covered and represented a lot of high-profile cases, including the Menendez brothers. But as we, other than custody, I mean, could there be mental illness? I mean, I'm not really sure what we're even looking at here when you're talking about a mother allegedly shooting her 9-year-old daughter.
One of the interesting things here, one of the questions, if you're the defense lawyer and you're picking up this file, the first thing you want to understand is if they thought that she was the person, why did it take so long to arrest her? What were they doing in the interim? I imagine they were doing a fulsome investigation as to tracking her phones, getting cell phone records, trying to delve into her background as to what was going on with her, checking to see, to your point, whether there are mental health problems, figuring out, I think a lot of people were attracted to this case, at least in a obsessive way, because of the changing of the wigs and the disguises and the videotapes and things of that nature. Something was going on. I don't know. I mean, if you're thinking that it's not, if you're not assuming it's mental health, the first thing that you would go to from a rational basis, if you're trying to analyze this, is, was there a custody dispute? Was she taking the daughter to somebody else for safekeeping? I mean, that's what you would hope for. And the last thing you would ever want is this, and gunshot wounds to the head. It's horrifying.
It is horrifying. We're watching a video, this NewsNation exclusive video of her being led away in handcuffs, a dramatic end to, trying to figure out what was going on. Our own Brian Enton was chasing her around as she was coming in and out of court, asking questions. We never got answers directly from her. Speaking of mental health, I want to, while I have you, Mark, I want to ask you about the Reiner case, because I know that you've been covering that. I've been listening to your podcasts and watching this case closely, as everyone has. Of course, we're talking about the horrific murders of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Newly released death certificates reveal the filmmakers died within minutes of sustaining these horrific knife wounds. Now we're hearing that Nick Reiner, the couple's troubled son, reportedly diagnosed with schizophrenia, was possibly using illegal drugs. He was arrested just hours after the news of their deaths broke. So I wanted to ask you about that, because I heard you talking about this on your podcast about, schizophrenia, a mix of cocktail of, getting the right drugs for that, and then possibly using illegal drugs. Talk to us about where this stands from a defense point of view.
Well, I think there's no question. I know Alan Jackson. I've known him since he was a young deputy DA and had cases against him and co-counseled with his partner in his firm on many cases over the years. I will tell you, I guarantee you, there are a few things certain in life, is that they've already got experts, medical, psychiatric experts, who are in there to examine him. I know that my podcast partner has gone out and said for sure it's going to be a not guilty by reason of insanity. I'm not so sure we're going to get to that by January 7th. My experience in these cases, and I've represented, unfortunately, more than I want to remember, is that when you have a schizophrenic child who's accused with murdering, with parricide, and I've seen it, one of the things they do when you mix the schizophrenic kind of personality or break with drugs, I know they're called illegal drugs, but whatever drugs they may be, that is a lethal cocktail. Now, schizophrenia does not normally result in all kinds of violence, or it's usually more self-harm, at least in my experience. But in this case, I think there was a psychotic break of some kind. And I suspect that Alan is going to say that he's not competent. And one of the reasons I say that, those pictures of Nick in that, what I call a bedspread, is indicative that he's being held in the mental health ward of Twin Towers. Twin Towers is downtown in the county jail system. Twin Towers is where they house the severely mentally ill. And if you've got him in the bedspread, that means that they've already felt like he is a danger to himself or others. That's the diagnosis when he's in there, number one. Number two, once he's in there and not able to get his hands on any drugs to, I hate this term, but to self-medicate, you will find, in my experience at least, that the client or the accused ends up being in kind of a fog. As they kind of center, as the brain tries to recalibrate, they have very little idea of where they are, what they've done, and any grasp on this. That is the picture template for competency. They are not normally competent as they're coming out of this fog. So I think that Alan picked a January 7th date to give a number of weeks to see if they could medicate Nick now properly to get him at a point where he is competent to enter a plea.
Right, and the attorney that you're mentioning, we want to also mention, was the attorney for Karen Reed. So this is obviously going to be high profile on all levels. Before I let you go, one final question. This December marks 23 years since the murder of Laci Peterson on Christmas Eve, and I have, as you know, followed this case along with you, watching you represent Scott Peterson during the trial. You were his attorney at trial. Other attorneys now handling the LA Innocence Project, handling the appeal, going after trying to get a new trial. What's the latest since we are on Christmas week? What you can tell us about that?
Well, I think that they're back in the Court of Appeal, frankly, and that they're, I think, disappointed at the results so far in the trial court. But the Court of Appeal originally kind of issued that OSC, and that's what started this latest round of appeals. As you know, I've told you on more than one occasion over the last 20 some odd years, I still to this day did not see anything that would have led anybody to believe that he should have been convicted for this. And so I'm hopeful that they get to a point where they determined that he either gets a fair trial or they determine what actually happened. I don't think there's anybody who followed the case who, with any definitive kind of compelling argument, can tell you what happened. I still believe I knew the evidence in real time better than anybody did. And all the evidence that has been developed in the last 20 years by other lawyers leads me to believe, and all points to the same thing, that this was a horrible, horrible result, but that Scott was not the person responsible.
Still to this day, you believe Scott Peterson is innocent, and do you still believe that it was possibly a burglary gone wrong across the street? That was
always my co-counsel Pat Harris's theory. I mean, from the get-go, Pat always was very adamant that that was it. I had more of an expansive view. I kind of focused more on the fact that anybody who knew, unfortunately, that was a death penalty case. And I say unfortunately because that's one of the reasons the death penalty was reversed in that case. A unanimous California Supreme Court said a couple of years ago that when we were arguing to Judge DeLucchi, hey, you're using the wrong legal standard.
Right.
And they said, yes, he was. But the problem with that case, at least for me, when we did the mitigation phase for the death penalty, and we put a nun on, and we put people who'd known him his whole life and the family members, there was nothing that showed that he was good for this.
Okay, Mark Geragos, I appreciate it, and I know that you'll be talking about it on your 2 podcasts, and we'll have you back on the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.